This is day 20 of me building a billion-dollar business in public. Without further ado, let's get straight into the video. So as always, we're going to start off with a YouTube Q&A where I answer your guys' question in the form of YouTube comments. So if you want to ask me a question, please drop a comment down below. Then we're going to get into the topic of today's video, and then we're going to do a little bit of a strategy session for the main channel as well as the daily channel. Now, for those of you who are new and you have no clue what's going on, welcome. My name is Bago, and this is my second channel, my daily YouTube channel. I have a main channel called Bago Official with almost 40,000 subscribers, tailored specifically for software engineers. As to who I am, I started my programming journey back in 2017 on the robotics team. That is me, you can see right there. From robotics, I went into UCLA to research the human consciousness, where I learned about C mainly, as well as Arduinos, so a little bit of software and hardware. Then I went into NASA as a computer engineer, once again, both software and hardware. Then I went to the Fortune 500 as a software engineering consultant. I consulted for these companies alongside many others, about 17. This was strictly software oriented. I climbed from junior position to manager position in 3 years, one of the fastest career climbs in terms of corporate ladder. Then I quit to found my own consulting firm, AB Analytics. This is what I run to this day, and this is one of the ventures that's going to get me to 1 billion. We are currently sitting at 990 million left to go. So we've got a while. Skipped a lot of wins, even more losses, I would say. Most of that information is on my personal website if you want to learn more. It's about.co2co.com. So if you're interested, you can check it out. Without further ado, let's get straight into the rest of the video. So let me refresh to make sure that we got everything covered. Perfect, so we got 2 questions. Yadrayan asks, what do you do / build, by the way? So, I think this is the email video that I did, cold email video that I did, if I'm not mistaken. Oh no, that's a different one. If you're talking about AB Analytics, right, it's B2B. I don't know why this says automating tasks with AI. It should say, I think it was using the thing, yeah. So we help businesses essentially grow, right? And we use AI and data analytics primarily. Before we were only doing data analytics, but we recently actually made the switch over to AI-powered insights. We were using it more so on the back end, but we added a lot of automations and other tools like that. One of the most recent examples, we've recently added a new kind of offering for law firms to help automate their systems, specifically with personal injury law firms, automating their systems of when they onboard a client and essentially get the client to go through the entire thing with them. A lot of the times, the way personal injury law firms work is you don't really pay the lawyer like by the hour. You split the settlement value at the very end. So essentially the smoother that entire system is running, the bigger the settlement value at the very end. So you can put in some automations that might save them a few hours here and there, but in settlement value, it can be upwards of, like 10, 20, 30, 40, $50,000, if not even more. In the shortest way I can explain it is, if you're a small to medium-sized business, we can most likely help you grow. Industry doesn't matter, nothing really matters. As long as you have data that we can work with, we can help you grow. If you don't have the data, we put in data intake systems and we help you grow. But we do primarily work with service-based businesses. We have worked with product-based, but we have moved away slightly to service-based because the margins are slightly higher. That's for the AB Analytics. For Co2CEO, which is the startup accelerator that I have that you're essentially watching all this content for, it's a startup accelerator for specifically software engineers. The way it works is I take a very small cohort of very talented developers and I help them start a business. A lot of the times, most of these folks are very technically brilliant, but they lack the business acumen, so I essentially fill in that gap. They start a business, they make a lot of money, I invest into the business and I take equity of that business. So my long-term play with Co2CEO is I partner with you guys, right? And we've had a lot of some very talented students come in, make businesses in very interesting areas, very interesting niches that I didn't even know existed. And the partnership is all that's really about. So the combination of these two will get me to 1 billion. This will do the heavy lifting though, for sure. That's pretty much the 2 main ventures I have. I do have a few other ventures, but I'm not the main person in them. I just have, co-ownership, a partnership in them, about 20%. One is a physical e-commerce product store, and another one is Sora, which will be revealed later. I don't want to talk about it now. But that's pretty much it. Outside of that, I don't really do anything else / build anything else. So thank you for the comment. Appreciate it. And then VSP asks, could you discuss how you've been able to build incredible focus, but ensure that context switching doesn't stall or derail progress, especially with so many things on one's plate like yours? Very good question. So I am focused, but I don't have the craziest focus. So interestingly enough, right now I did pay a coach about like $45,000 for 4 hours of his time to help me with focus, productivity, and things like that. So yes, I also do invest in coaching and mentorship. Don't think that I'm just selling it, okay? I've probably spent more in coaching and mentorship than most individuals you know that ever made from coaching offers. The reason why I actually invested in it is because as of this moment, if you see my calendar, you'll understand that, especially with the daily channel and all the other things that I have to do, I have taken out a lot of the social stuff. So I have no social stuff on my calendar. My day-to-day, I wake up, I do work, I work out, I do work, and then I sleep. That's pretty much most of my day. I try to get the Saturdays, maybe one day out of a Saturday, one day out of a Sunday with family, you know, here and there, or see friends. But generally speaking, I'm pretty locked in most of the time. But I do know for a fact that if I am more productive with the hours that I have in a day, I can afford to actually spend a little bit more time doing things that I enjoy, socializing and doing things like that. Because I know for a fact I don't have to work 16 hours, 17 hour, 18-hour days for me to be successful, right? Then that must mean I'm lacking something. Either, you know, it's a method, either it's a knowledge gap, or maybe it could be self-sabotage that I'm not seeing myself and somebody has to observe from the side. So that's why I got the mentor and why I paid so much. I've only had the first hour for now. The rest of the 3 hours are, I'm going to book them month to month, because the way it works is you do it, you take the feedback, you implement it, you see how it goes, and then you get on another call. Thus far, I have implemented it and I am seeing way better results. So my self-sabotage in this specific case, like I always thought I was very focused and I could, you know, do context switching relatively easily. But what I did not like before, and I never really was this type of a guy, was I was never a journal or a calendar guy. I hated having a calendar, I hated having a journal, but for the sake of, you know, listening to the mentor, because obviously he knows more in this specific case, I put my ego aside and I decided to put everything on my calendar, not down to minute detail, but put stuff on my calendar, did have a journal, still trying to get used to it, but I started writing stuff that I needed to do and stuff that I need to get done. And the way I split it up when it comes to context switching is I have dedicated time slots for each thing. So I have dedicated time slots for deep work, I have dedicated time slots for miscellaneous work and things like that. Before I used to mix them, so I used to go from deep work to miscellaneous, from miscellaneous to deep work. Now, let's say from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m., I can only work on the deep work oriented stuff. I can only work on the 20% of the things that will get me 80% of the results. And I have noticed that that has significantly improved my productivity, because I don't need to context switch as much anymore and lose out precious time here and there, and also mental bandwidth too. Because in the mornings, I prioritize most of the heavy lifting in the mornings. That's when I'm personally the smartest, so to say. When evening time comes, my brain sort of like starts shutting down a little bit, and I might not be as logical or as intuitive as I would like to be. So that's how I've been able to do it. Now, before the mentor, the way I did it was really just gung-ho it. There's no other way to put it. I don't have any distractions, so I have my office room is completely blacked out. So room is blacked out. The only light that I have is natural light that I have through an actual like softbox. And then my phone is nowhere near me always, and it's always on do not disturb. So phone is on do not disturb, DND. I don't eat very early on. I'll maybe drink water, I'll eat later. And when I do eat, I try to not eat too many carbs. And if I'm gonna eat, I'll primarily eat protein and high fiber. to keep the brain fog away, and everything that I'm eating has to be organic. So generally speaking, I do Greek yogurt with a bunch of stuff. If you're interested, I do Greek yogurt with honey, cinnamon, mixed nuts, walnuts, hazelnuts, things like that, nuts, strawberry, passion fruit, like the juice inside it, blackberry, pomegranate, and vanilla extract. And then that's my like quote unquote breakfast, if you want to call it that. But that keeps me very ongoing and doesn't give me brain fog, and I can still work. And then another thing, I don't have any distractions outside of that, so nobody bothers me. Strictly if my door is closed, that means do not enter, do not do anything. Basically just leave me be, right? And on my main computer as well, like the personal computer that you guys see in the video sometimes, I do not have any video games. I don't have any video games. I don't have any apps. I'm not logged in anywhere, right? Most of the time, if I'm going on a browser or something, I'll wipe the cache every single time when it comes to any social media accounts outside of YouTube. So if, let's say, I get distracted and I want to go on Twitter to see what's trending, I'm going to have to log in and then go through the authentication process. That, to me, is way better than just downloading an app that like blocks it for you, because to me, honestly, I think that's a little too much, right? Because sometimes I do just want to, like, it might be work oriented or work related that I need to do it, so I'll just log in. But outside of that, if I just want to go in and see something, the second I see a little bit of, let's say, roadblock or an obstacle with me having to log in, I'm like, okay, never mind, like dopamine hit I'll get later, go back to work. So that's been what's been helpful for me. And that's pretty much it, honestly. I think the biggest thing about productivity that people don't really understand, or about building focus, it's obsession. You need to be obsessed about what it is that you want. And I know it's a little difficult to understand this, especially when you don't really want it, but obsession comes from multiple places. It can either come from a high place, or it can come from a low place. Low place meaning you're about to hit rock bottom, you have no money, you need to make money to, do something, and you're going to be locked in. Like, trust me, you're not going to need any motivation, you're not going to need any productivity routines. You'll be able to lock in and actually get that money. Or you can come from a very high place where you're not necessarily in any specific, situation, not in a critical situation or anything of that sort, but rather you're operating from such a high value frame where you're like, every second of my time is so precious, I cannot afford to waste it on mundane tasks. Thus, every single second that I'm spending has to be spent on high ROI things. So both are little extremes on either side, but both is where you want to be, either at the bottom end or the top end. In the middle is when you're, prone to all those distractions, all those things. So obviously you want to be in here. If most people are in here, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Use that to get yourself over there. Thank you for the question. Let me know if that answered it. Okay, perfect. So with that, let's talk about the topic of today's video, which is the skill that makes you layoff-proof. And it is not coding. Now, I'm going to cut straight to the chase, and we are going to talk about communication as a software engineer. The reason I emphasize communication as a software engineer is because it is the most underrated skill that ever exists as a software engineer. Most people, when they hear communication, they're like, oh, okay, basically how I interact in meetings, right? That's what you mean. No, that is not what I mean. I don't only mean with regards to verbal/oral communication. I mean communication in every single form, right? Written communication as well, body language, all these things. But the most fundamental part about communication is the number one thing of communication is actually listening. Before you can talk, before you can even say anything, you need to be able to listen. Most software engineers are not good listeners, right? This is why you'll see so many requirements document that don't make sense, or that after everything is done, there's always a discord between the non-technical and the technical folks due to the requirements document. And that comes from not necessarily a communication issue. Well, it's a communication issue, but more specifically, it's a listening issue. People don't know how to listen properly. So the one skill that will make you layoff-proof, no matter what time period it is, even if everybody's been replaced by AI, as long as you know how to communicate well, you will never, ever, ever be jobless, okay? Because communication, it truly is the golden skill. It's the one skill that is so important for you to have, and it's the one skill that is such high ROI that there's no such thing as like, oh, like you should spend your time learning another skill. Communication should be something that you actually practice daily. It should be a skill that you try to improve daily. Because communication, it will improve your marketing, your sales, and each of these are already important in their own, right? Your copywriting, right? Your body language, your charisma, your likability, essentially everything that makes you who you are, it will amplify it by a crazy amount. And all you really need to know is figure out how you can communicate properly, clearly, efficiently, without mincing too many words, without stuttering, without without saying these things. And it's really not too difficult, because once you get into it, once you start developing, every single day practice makes perfect, and then the day, right? Once you get better as a communicator, as a software engineer, you realize that you actually dominate all the meetings. All the technical people want to talk to you, all the non-technical people want to talk to you. You don't have any problem with documentation, because documentation is also a communication skill. You don't have any problem with drafting out requirements, because now you can actually properly listen. And you become the bridge between the technical and the non-technical folks, which is exactly where you want to be as a software engineer if you want to be rich, but also if you never have to worry about layoffs or anything of that sort. You can always make good money without having to rely on an employer. With that is communication. I can't stress this enough. The most important skill on the planet for anybody in general, but especially so for software engineers, because of the stereotype that software engineers don't have to communicate. They can sit behind their computer in a dungeon, in a basement, and just code from there. Nobody has to see them. Nobody has to know who they are. All they do is just technical work. Not true at all. Not true. These stereotypes are the main reason that so many software engineers are lacking communication skills, which is why 99.9% of the problems that you even have in the software space don't come from technical ability, but rather lack of communication or improper communication. Hence why you need to work on communication. Now you might say, okay, how do I get better at communication? A lot of different ways. End of the day, practice makes perfect. Good starting point, I would maybe say Daniel Carnegie. Right? If you look at his stuff, I think he's from 1960s, 70s. He was a writer, American writer. A lot of stuff about copywriting, things like that, mainly in the business sense. But he had a lot of good content, and essentially he had a lot of knowledge and wisdom that he passed down in the form of books, but a lot of other things too. Let me double check that it's actually, yes, it is. It's, oh wow, excuse me, 1888. He died 1955. So I was a little off on the timing there. But he has a lot of great books that you can take a look in terms of copywriting and things like that. And I would say he should be everybody's sort of like first bastion into communication, learning about communication. And then you can get into other individuals, Dostoevsky and all these guys, if you really want to. But start there as a software engineer. It will be a really good segue. And that's pretty much it for this section. Now let's get into a little bit of strategizing. Not much to talk about. We answered the comments here. Let me make sure that you didn't get any more. Perfect. Let's take a look at the analytics. So we grew past 7 days. Let's check it out. We're growing a decent amount. Our subscriber count is definitely less in terms of growing. And we did have a little bit of a dip after September 9th. So we need to recover our little streak. I believe it was this video that went a little viral. Not this one, I think this one. Yeah, this one. This one got about 1.1k views, so that's not bad. So we're gonna keep dishing out more content. We're gonna try a little bit, couple more thumbnails. You'll see on this video, actually, you'll see a new thumbnail. And we will go from there. So as always, thank you so much for watching, and have a good one.